All right, board one. Austria is Mehmet Alpazlan. Apologies, Mehmet. Hopefully I've gotten your first name at least close to accurate. Mehmet is Turkish but lives in New York City. Tim Richardson is from Virginia, and Tim is a longtime face-to-face player. All three of us have played with him many times and shared a drink with Tim many times. I think that's something that Tim has done with just about everyone in the hobby. France is Ben Kellman, coming to us from a new version of Pennsylvania with one with only one N.
Yet another.
We've got many types of Pennsylvania on the broadcast today. Germany is Robert Cantelmo out of New York, who was a longtime face-to-face player. I have never met him. He's been out of the hobby since I joined, but Siobhan, you know him well, correct?
Yeah, I know him fairly well. I met him at 2015 Masters Tournament in Gulf Shores, Alabama. Great guy. He stopped playing for a number of years to finish up his grad school, and then his wife had a baby, so that took over, and now he's back.
Welcome back, Robert. Looking forward to seeing how the return to form goes for you. In Italy, we have someone that we have long suspected was former independent presidential candidate John Anderson. I think someone on the last broadcast pointed out that John Anderson had died at some point, maybe about 10 years ago. I think we've since confirmed that this is the resurrected body of former presidential candidate John Anderson.
Zombie.
So, yes, but he topped his board in round one, so it's a very effective zombie.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see how it goes. Speaking of zombies, in Russia, we have Andrew Goff coming to us from Australia. Andrew may not be a zombie, but he has made plenty of zombies out of his opponents. We shall see whether that happens again today. Was not able to work his magic in round one, we should point out. I think it's the first time that I've covered Andrew Goff where he did not top the board, which was interesting. In Turkey, we have Seren Kwak, who is in Washington, and I thought she was in the UK. She was on a broadcast a couple months ago, and really is a brand new player. In round one, we saw her arrange a well-crafted split center board top as France with Russia. So now she's on the opposite corner. We'll see how that goes. All right, enough chit chat. Let us go to the board.
This is just a great mix of players. Several people who topped their boards in round one. Andrew Goff, who's obviously going to be looking for a big score because he didn't have one in round one. Tim Richardson, who's a great player. So this should be a lot of fun.
All right. We have divided up the board between East and West. And Siobhan, you are taking the West this time, and Adam, the East, correct?
Sure.
Perfect.
All right, Siobhan, we will start with you in the West. Tell us what you see.
Immediately jumping out to me is the atypical English opening. Chris Martin would be very, very proud. He argues that the English player should always go to the channel. So well done, Tim Richardson. We'll see how that works out for you. It's not as bad as it could normally be for France, except Munich also went to Burgundy. So France has some concerns.
Along with this little guy right here.
Germany are working together. Rob Cantelmo and Tim Richardson did both live in DC together for quite a while, so probably know each other pretty well. And also in the West, Italy is, poor France. And Kelman, what did you do to them?
Yeah, not the ideal start for France. What do you make of the fact that Liverpool went to Yorkshire instead of Wales?
I don't hate it. It just means that he wants to also convoy to Norway. Well, no, because now he can convoy over the North Sea and support with the English Channel. I don't love it.
All right, we'll see how it works out. Adam, take us around the East.
Yeah, I think a lot of standard stuff with respect to Galicia bouncing. Austria does the normal thing. Italy does the normal thing except for the Piedmont move, which Siobhan just talked about. I think the thing you immediately notice is that nobody went to the Black Sea, but Sev and Smyrna went to Armenia. You have to believe that that was an arranged bounce. It's sort of an unusual way for Turkey and Russia to do it, but actually it's sort of less wasteful of moves for both of them in a lot of ways, because that Smyrna army isn't necessarily going to go anywhere anyway. So I like it for Turkey. Gets the fleet out really fast. It's a very safe move for him. So we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, and with Andrew Goff in Russia, I mean, it's guaranteed that there is some longer term plan in effect here.
Yeah.
All right, so we look forward to seeing how this one evolves.
Coming from Andrew Goff, though, who always says that everyone should always go to black without exception, this is a little odd.
Did you say that? Okay.
Yes.
Must have hit it off really well with Saren right away in the negotiations.
There we go.
Too bad we won't get the post-game interview, but that's how it goes. Fall of 1901, and let's stay in the East with Adam.
Okay, so after all of that, Turkey moves to the Black Sea. So clearly not as trusting as I'm sure Andrew had hoped that she would be, but probably a solid move. Knowing the competition you're up against, make sure you keep your neighbors honest. Doesn't necessarily mean there's not an RT, but it means that hey, I'm not going to let Ghafi dictate everything that happens in this alliance. So we'll see where that goes. Austria does all the normal stuff. Of note is that there's no bounce in Galicia. Austria covers Trieste, while Russia moves up to Livonia.
And Siobhan, take us around the West.
Well, France had some choices to make about what to cover and what not to cover. Nothing that they could have done about Marseille. England does, in fact, convoy over the North Sea in support with the English Channel. We will see today if that is where the English army goes to die. And we've got a bounce in Sweden, which, when it's Andrew Goff, makes perfect sense to me.
I'll just say I don't like the French moves. I really don't like the self-bounce in Brest. I'd rather take the center and risk losing Mao. If you want to cover Brest, I've got no issue with covering Brest from Picardy. Worst case scenario, you can't build a fleet. Okay, you put an army down. You deal with it. But this is to me, just not the best you can do in this situation.
I absolutely agree.
It's a tragic set of orders for France. If they had any hope of turning England to their favor, it's likely gone because they're of little use to England. They can't really help fight against Germany. Whereas if they had done what you said, Adam, they could have plopped down an army in Paris and would have been a fine partner, a junior partner, but fine. All right, let's see how the builds went then. We don't need to guess what France is going to build, but England puts down a fleet in London, which is interesting. Could have made an argument for Liverpool there.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see around the board. We've got two armies from Germany. So
England's got to be loving that.
Yeah, now you really wish you had that fleet in Liverpool, I would think. Around the rest of the board, we got armies in Austria and Russia and Italy, which got the build, puts down a second army or third army in Rome rather than two fleets, which is probably what you might have expected there. And then Turkey did not. The follow-up to Khan was the surprising thing. So interesting to see what Turkey's longer-term plan is here. And let's not wait too long to find out. Spring 1902. Let's go back to the West with Siobhan.
All right, so he realized that he wanted that fleet elsewhere and is moving it over to Wales. Maybe would have been happy to have been in Irish Sea right now, or at least a bounce in NAO. Italy continues the westward, just steamrolling into Gascony, Western Med, Piedmont again. Germany gets nowhere in there. I wonder how long Germany will hold out before they get frustrated that England and Italy are getting all the spoils here.
My God, let's go to the East because my goodness.
Yeah.
Adam, help us out.
Well, I mean, this certainly looks like, some people are a little bit nervous about Mr. Goff. And clearly Andrew knew this was coming, right? You can tell by his withdrawal from Livonia to Moscow and the move to Ukraine. Yeah, I mean, interesting choice by the Turks to convoy to Armenia. I guess it's good. I mean, with the destruction of Romania, she's got a play on Sev, but with the withdrawal of the Russian units, it's not a guarantee. But it's a solid alliance move if the plan is to work with the Austrian, and it's set up for a nice Austria-Turkish alliance, at least in the early game. We'll see whether that's something that can be maintained, especially with such a savvy player as Andrew in Russia, who's going to be pushing really hard to break it up. Italy looks like he's going mainly to the west. It's sort of interesting, though, that the fleet really goes to Ionian rather than Tyrrhenian. That's clearly a sensible defensive move, but I personally would have rather see that second fleet instead of the army in Rome, so that it would be a sufficient commitment to the attack on France.
Mhm.
It's hard not to be impressed with Saren's sort of overall flexibility. I think this was one of the things we saw in her first round game, but especially here. I mean, you could look at these moves that she's done as sort of seesawing back and forth, but she's got a very clear tactical advantage here, or at least a good tactical position, I should say. It's not clear that she's going to get Sevastopol here or anything like that, at least not this year. But this is she's not stuck yet. Now, if Austria and Italy work together, then she's going to have a problem. Okay, let's move on to the fall of 1902, and we'll stay in the East with Adam.
Yeah, and Austria and Turkey make the right moves here.
Yeah.
I mean, they make the right moves, and Austria takes Sev, Turkey follows in. They both get a build. This is just great play. I mean, they cut Ukraine, which obviously in this case was the mover, but this, I believe, was virtually this was unstoppable. This was the right set of orders. So good job by Austria and Turkey for figuring the tactics out. Ionian and Aegean basically brace each other. Greece decides not to get involved in that, which makes sense. I don't think if you're Austria, you've got no reason to be supporting Turkey forward at this point, and you certainly have no reason to be supporting Italy against Turkey. So it's all very sensible moves here.
It's a very savvy hold, and this might actually reflect a three-way alliance that has been negotiated between all three of them. And it's surprisingly stable, actually, right? Like, this is a setup that could last indefinitely. It's a waste of 3 units on the backside, but it keeps them together.
I have a hard time seeing this being stable for Austria. I think if Austria decides to stick with it, Austria is really at a big risk for getting squeezed. We've seen this time and time again where Austria ends up in between, on the front lines of an alliance between other powers, because Austria ultimately has nowhere else to go other than towards Warsaw, Moscow, Munich. And once they're up there, there's no units behind for Italy and Turkey to do what they want with those centers. So we'll see if it goes in that direction, but I wouldn't be totally surprised to see Austria make a more aggressive play at some point sooner than later.
All right, Siobhan, take us around the west. Oops, go back here. Take us around the west.
So England continues on to take Brest, while Italy takes Spain. Germany takes Belgium from behind England, but I would be surprised if that were not arranged, because at the same time, Germany is pushing east and quickly. So what I'm curious to see is what Ben plans to do with that fleet that is now in the Norwegian Sea.
This reminds me of the Royale last weekend when Chris Kelly sent his fleet. I was Russia. Chris Kelly sent his fleet into the Barents and ended up in St. Pete for a really...
That wasn't frustrating at all, was it?
No, and I'm sure Chris Kelly is in the comments section. So Chris, tell us all about it, because I don't. Yeah, I mean, I'm asking you to because you're going to do it anyway. So
now it can seem like it was your idea.
Exactly. All right, let's check out some builds. Winter 1902, we find a slightly surprising fleet build from Turkey. This suggests that all is not well on the southern front. Italy's fleet build also suggests that there is tension, at least between I and T.
And Austria is just trying to be like...
Yeah. Real big question here will be what Austria wants to do about it, or not do about it.
Yeah.
In the north, we've got a German army build. No surprise, but it keeps the EG very copacetic from G's perspective, from E's perspective, I should say. England really had no choice, I think. Fleet build in Eddie was the only choice, and France keeps Norwegian. So, all right, let's stay in the west here. Siobhan, you are up on spring 1903. What stands out to you?
All right, Norwegian goes to Clyde, always a good place to be. The other two fleets move out, but we still have to contend with that issue. Germany takes Paris. We've got an Italian who's moving back a little, who is very anxious about the Austrian, possibly with good reason given, well, I'll leave that to Adam. But still moving to Tyrrhenian Sea. Depending on how well England and Italy work together, we'll see how long France holds out in Portugal.
All right, Adam, take us around the east.
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly what I was saying last turn. I think this is a savvy play by Austria. Austria really realizes that they need to make a decision sooner rather than later if they want to be not the odd man out in this alliance. And they've made their decision, and it looks like they're going to be working with the Turks. And I think that makes sense. There's probably a little bit of fear factor in with respect to Andrew in Russia and wanting to not bust up the work with Turkey until he's completely contained. And there's also just this aspect of, well, how much is Italy really helping us? They've really screwed up the West by taking Marseille and Spain. And so at this point, we can let that resolve itself to some extent by making a play. Of course, I could be completely wrong, and Austria goes to Munich or something like that now. So we'll see. But
this is a slightly epic fall of 03 coming up for this board. Yeah, this is a moment of truth.
I think so. I mean, I'm expecting Austria to take Venice, but I could be completely off the mark. I don't know what's being negotiated here. So
Austria takes Venice and supports Turkey and Ionian.
That's what I see.
That's what happens if the AT is really what it seems. Interesting question is how long Goff can hold out up here. There's no pressure on him from the north, so until Austria gets an army up into Silesia, it seems like he can hold out indefinitely.
Yeah, and that's smart. And that's smart play by England. There's no reason to let the South resolve itself faster.
All right, let us move to. Did we do the West yet? We have not. Or did we?
No, I did the West.
You did. Okay, great. Let's move on to the fall, 1903. And Adam, what happened? Ooh.
Okay. All right. Well, there it is. I mean, it moved as I expected. But thanks to the German getting involved and a good guess on their part, the Germans supported the Italians up through Tyrolia. That was a bold move on the part of the Italians. Frankly, I'm kind of surprised that the Austrians did it in this direction, because you maybe want to leave Trieste open for the build. On the other hand, they might have been looking at it and saying, well, maybe Munich will cut Tyrolia if I do it the other way.
Yeah, it's a straight 50-50 guess.
Yeah, and of course, instead of cutting it, Munich supported Venice up. So, that's okay. This happens sometime. I mean, you've got the Germans moving down to Bohemia as well with that, which is really just, very interesting play. The Germans are definitely playing in both theaters, which I guess to some extent you like. To some extent, it's a risk in being spread out. But look at the middle of the board. Nobody's there.
Mm-hmm. All right, Siobhan, tell us about the West.
I mean, let's start with the Germans. It's superb play by Rob here. The opportunity was there for him, and he took it, and it seems to be working out. It looks like he's coming to the aid of the Russians, when at first I thought he was coming to attack the Russians. So we'll see how that works out for Goffi. I will say, I think this is in France. We have what I think is the fastest elimination we've had today.
Yep. Of any country, yeah.
Yeah, Ben Kelman, you did good. There was kind of nothing you could do.
This is what is known as a learning experience.
Wear more deodorant next time. Oh wait, you're not in the same place. So that
it goes back to 01. It really does.
In spring of 01. Every single, as I was going around, it's like, oh, that person's attacking. Oh, that. Yeah. Oh, that.
You got to cover one of these, especially if you don't know. It's very risky to not cover English, Burgundy, or Piedmont. So, all right.
Just one thing I'll point out that has big implications on the East is the fact that the English supported Italy and Portugal. So Italy's going to build now. Yep. So look at what that does, right? I mean, now Italy's going to put something down in Naples, maybe an army, maybe a fleet, I don't know. But now that the balance is completely off.
And you have to wonder how long the T and the AT is going to tolerate the stagnation.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be fascinating to see what magic Goffi can work to break through this, and whether he can somehow make his way back on top. Let's see. They are in the fall of 04, so we're going to leave this board here after 1903 and move on to board number 2. All right, let's head on back over to game number 1, which is Grimke Sisters. Let me give us some background on this. Grimke sisters were 19th century sisters. They were the first nationally known white American female advocates of the abolition of American slavery, and also advocates of women's rights. They were speakers, writers, and educators. They grew up in slave-owning family in South Carolina, but moved to the North in the 1820s, settling for a time in Philadelphia and becoming part of its substantial Quaker community. Thanks, Bill, for the background.
Loving the theme on these board names.
Yeah, so it looks like they're all civil rights figures that are connected with Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
All right, back to this board. This is Tim Richardson in England and Robert Cantelmo in France. We have Andrew Goff in Russia. That's right. This was a hard slog for the first few years for Andrew Goff. Saren Kwok in Turkey and Mehmet Alpazlan in Austria formed a pretty effective AT and were able to get into Ionian. So let us move forward here and check it out. We had Siobhan in the West and Adam in the East for this, correct?
That's what we were doing, yeah.
All right, Adam, you're fresh back on here. After I call out the builds, we'll send the first set of orders over to you. These builds find Italy putting down a fleet, thanks to England supporting him into Portugal, and Germany. Germany's build came from the elimination of France in 1903. All right, let's see some orders here. Spring 1904 orders, and Adam Silverman, show us what happens in the East.
Yeah, I mean, I think the AT Alliance continues to do their thing. They are still, unable to break into Russia because of the defensible position that Andrew has set up there, and now they're starting to run into some problems with Germany coming south, and that's going to make their lives a lot more difficult. They do. No, there's not really any progress to be had down south at this stage. So they're going to start to run into some problems with Germany and Bohemia and Tyrolia there, and really nobody playing aggressive against them. I would have to imagine that the English taking Portugal was probably arranged.
And Siobhan, tell us about the West.
Yeah, I absolutely agree that the English taking Portugal was absolutely arranged. At some point, why not? Everyone marches east, and Germany is right there in the middle of the board, and you love to see it with no real enemies. England is shuffling that Liverpool fleet around, which tells me maybe he's regretting not having put it in London.
And all right, let's move forward to the fall of 1904, and we'll stay in the West with you, Siobhan.
Yeah. Let's see. The German armies continue to push east. I'm sure Adam will talk about the impacts of that in just a little bit. Bunch of holds in the West because why not? Wales to the English Channel is, I think, the only thing of interest.
All right. Adam, talk to us about the East. There are some shenanigans.
Yeah, there certainly are, and I think whether this is a case of Goffey working his magic or Saren just getting impatient by the lack of progress, but we can see this is a game-changing turn for the eastern side of the board, right? I mean, just a total disaster for the Austrians. They lose 1, 2, 3, 4 centers.
Well, but be careful. Count those retreats.
The retreat into Romania and Bulgaria.
Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. That's right. What is Turkey doing here? Okay. Okay. Yeah, you're right. I spoke too soon. I mean, it's a disastrous turn for AET entirely. I mean, this is like if this was planned, which I'm sure it was. It could not have been planned better. So you have basically a bunch of dot trading by Turkey and Austria, basically collapsing their position. I mean, absolutely devastating their position. You have Germany continuing to press south and give Andrew absolutely no trouble whatsoever. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how this plays and if this actually works out for Germany in the long run. But this is a new game.
Yeah.
This is, I mean, this might be the archetypal 0-dot stab.
Unreal. So she took Serbia and Greece, and there were Austrian retreats into Bulgaria and
Romania.
and Romania, and Sev is lost as well. Unreal.
Yeah, it's it's unclear what. I mean, this may be a result of inexperience, right? Saren, we know, has only been playing for a couple months. There is a question here of whether this board was heading towards a just a big giant stalemate, and if anybody was going to take a shot and try to stab. The question I was planning to ask you guys. I thought this game was actually simplifying, and I wanted to ask you after this turn. I should have done it right away when I first thought of it. Was can anybody stab anybody without throwing the board top to somebody on the other side of the board? And
nope.
Right.
Nope. No way.
Too bad we didn't get you guys on the record before we saw this. But all right, let's get the builds on the board here. We've got Goff coming back from what looked like a very stuck position to at least put one on the board. It should be said here that England could have handled this set of moves better. If Tim wants to fight, wants to try to take something off of Goff here and still protect North, could have done it very easily here, right? You move Norwegian to North, Norway goes to St. Pete. Andrew Goff needed to open up St. Petersburg here in order to get a build, in order to be able to put the build down, and got away with it. So, okay. And then we've got an army in Edinburgh. Okay. Any way of explaining that one?
It's better than Liverpool.
Is this a case of Andrew Goff, inserting a microchip or one of those little worms that crawls in the ear, like in the Wrath of Khan, and then controls your mind?
It's Tim Richardson, and it's late, and maybe he's tired.
All right, we've got a quarantined army in Edinburgh.
It's the theme of the year.
Spring of 1905. Siobhan, tell us what happens in the West.
Not a whole lot. They take Sweden off of Russia. I mean, it does look like he's setting up to convoy that army over to Norway. So maybe that was the plan, which is fine, I guess. Other than that, hold, and failure to move in Italy.
Yeah, this was a failure of imagination on our parts, I think. A fleet here might have made Germany more nervous.
Yeah.
So, okay. All right. What about the East? Andrew, tell us about
it. Sorry. So
Adam, sorry. I think I just said Andrew. Okay.
That's all right. I think I've been called Alex, Andrew, all kinds of things tonight. It's all right. Yeah, so it looks like at the very least, Austria and Turkey probably realized that maybe what happened last turn wasn't in either of their best interests. So it does look like there was a little bit of correction in that regard here.
Gorgeous.
But the position is just not that good, right? And that you can see that by Germany taking Vienna in this situation. Austria does retake Trieste with Turkey's help, but I mean, this position is just not good at all. Not good in any way. Russia's now down in Ukraine and Galicia, well poised to retake Romania with that fleet in Bulgaria south coast. This is just a tough position on them, and I think it's one of their own making, unfortunately, but hopefully a learning experience.
All right, and it's interesting to see who's in position to top this board. At this moment, England is at 7, Germany will be at 8, and Italy will be knocked back down to 6 here. So it looks like Germany's to lose at this point, right?
It really does.
Just has to not give up. Well, Denmark. Sorry, England could steal it right here.
He could, but I don't think he will. I think that this has been just masterful negotiation by Rob Cantelmo this game. He's convincing people to do things that are suboptimal for them. I don't think Tim Richardson is turning.
All right, let's find out. And Siobhan, you'll tell us about it.
And I was right about that. He holds on to what he gained. puts the Russian into Budapest. The Russian also takes Romania. Austria winds up on nothing.
Austria goes out. So this is where the so I'm sorry, Adam, tell us. I'm sorry, Aaron, tell us about the
AA Ron.
It's still Adam. That's all right. Yeah, I mean, no, Austria is not on nothing. Austria goes to Serbia. And,
sorry, you're right.
And again, this is another little circle situation with these moves. But I mean, again, who has benefited from that stab? And it's Germany and it's Russia, and not the others. So Italy gets Trieste back, with help from the German. Russia gets Budapest with the help from the Germans. It's a great strong play by Germany and Russia, and also a good job by Italy to reclaim some position there.
Yeah, this is a real sort of a good model of how an alliance can fall apart really quickly, and how you have to choose your stab opportunities carefully. When you're surrounded by enemies, you just have to accept that you're stuck sometimes. Andrew Goff,
as usual,
it's going to finish on 6 here, which is not what it looked like would happen.
7. No, 6. You're right. Sorry.
Yeah, because he lost Sweden. Yep. All right. This is how the game ends. I don't know if the builds had any effect on that. So the game ends with Robert Cantelmo taking first, and Tim Richardson and John Anderson in England and Italy tying for second, and Russia and Andrew Goff comes in fourth, which honestly is sort of better than I thought he would end up. Is this the right outcome for this game, guys? Either one.
Well, I think Germany topping is probably right. I mean, there's clearly quite a bit of play left in this game, but if you're Germany, you're probably thinking, hey, this is a good result. I don't necessarily need to tempt the fates and see what happens if we keep going. I would imagine that Andrew, I believe, did not have a great result in the first round, and was probably just thinking like, I'm okay with this, and don't need to keep playing, because this is definitely a position where Russia can grow and probably do a lot better.
He does say in the comments that apparently he was completely exhausted, because remember, he is in Melbourne, and it might have been the middle of the night when he started.
I think round 1 was the middle of the night, and this game was in the morning over there. So which is perfectly understandable. But I think that if this was a extended tournament or really playing for a top placement in the tournament, I don't think Andrew's going to call a draw here.
It's hard to see that, but his position isn't particularly good. It's just that with Germany between England and also Italy around. I mean, it's just a very dynamically interesting set of possibilities here, and those are the sorts of situations that Andrew Goff thrives in. So yeah, it would have been fun. It's a little disappointing actually now that we didn't get to see more of this game, but let's thank the players and congratulate Robert Cantelmo on a board top.
Happy to see you back on a board, Rob.